What the city is talking about. This is Montreal Now on News Talk Radio, CJAD 800.
That is James MENNIE. He is over at the Montreal Gazette. And Jim, as we await the details of the budget, we're going to start by talking about Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon, because the news, if you will, or some of his comments just keep getting weirder and weirder. I'm talking beyond this idea of the referendum that he, kind of was banging his fist on during the PQ summit there on the weekend. Now he's come out and said, and this is a quote right from today, the history of Canada is a story of assimilation. We must not forget what French speakers experienced in deportations and executions and the ban on having education in French. This regime has been constant throughout its history. And then he adds, and Justin Trudeau is no exception. Jim, what's going on here?
A lot of people in Quebec City are asking themselves the same question, and from other sides of the National Assembly. But I have to tell you, I really wasn't expecting the head of the PQ to be, and we talked about this yesterday. There's a certain amount of theater involved, but now, today, he is swinging from a chandelier. The CAQ, Quebec Solidaire, the Liberals cannot make head or tail of this. However, there is a consensus, which is this guy is engaging in a level of rhetoric which is downright dangerous. When he makes, he's playing a game here because he says, well, the history of French is a story of deportations and executions. Well, the deportations, if he talks about the Acadians, yes, they spoke French. They weren't deported because they spoke French. They were deported because they wouldn't swear allegiance to the king. That is a matter of fact. And in fact, the Quebecers who swore allegiance to the king were still here. But that's to one side. Executions, what's he referring to? Is he referring to the famous rebellion? Les Patriotes, because there, I hate to tell you, Mr. Plamondon, there were some Anglophones who got hung by the British during that rebellion as well. This is dangerous stuff, Aaron. And you and I have spent way too much time talking about how certain people out there stewing in their own juices hear stuff like this and look at it as a justification, hear stuff like this and get themselves worked up into this sort of like fantasy world where we're talking about this conspiracy against French, against identity. I don't know where this is coming from. I don't know whether this is a strategy. If it is, I'll tell you right now, it's downright dangerous. But if Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon has had a sudden change of heart, if this is the way he thinks, if this is the way he intends to lead the Parti Québécois, I got news for you. He's not doing his party. He's not doing the cause of sovereignty. And quite frankly, he's not doing the reputation of Quebec any favors with the kind of rubbish that he spewed this afternoon.
Yeah, I mean, Jim, I think people might be looking at it that way. You hate to say that, but, after hearing and reading some of these comments, you're kind of thinking, what happened? I mean, he's gone off the deep end here. Is this to appeal to the lunatic fringe? Who is this for, by the way?
I don't know. I mean, is it for, you either have people who believe in a sovereign Quebec or do not. If they do, it's not based on this pastiche of semi-history that Mr. Saint-Pierre Plamondon issued today, and the idea that this is a continuum of an attack against Francophones, and it's unclear. Is it Francophones across Canada? Is it Francophones in Quebec? Is it Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon? Is it people who don't agree with the Parti Québécois? It's all very weird. But all of a sudden, with today, and I'm no fan here, Aaron, but today Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon made François Legault look like an elder statesman. And for this kind of rhetoric, I hope it's rhetoric, to actually, for someone in Quebec City, an elected office, to feel confident about uttering such absolutely dangerous nonsense, I think speaks volumes about where we are politically in Quebec. And quite frankly, I'm the thing that I'm glad to see is, I expect it from the Liberals, of course, the official opposition, but Gabriel Nadeau-Dubois, the CAQ, various CAQ ministers have all turned around and said this is completely out of left field. It makes no sense. And it's clear that describing his tone as catastrophic as fear mongering, which is exactly what it is. But there is a dark thread that runs through what he said today, which quite frankly does not bode well for the future of political discourse in Quebec.
Well, I'd ask the question then, Jim. I mean, if you talk about fear-mongering, and it's hard to believe or hard to imagine this has nothing to do with that, is this to try to attract, we always talk about that breakdown, right? Who's going to be voting sovereignist in a referendum if there was to be one? So it's the old Quebecers who've been around for a while, who didn't get it the first time or the second time. Then we always say, well, that young Quebecers don't care about this, right? They have their lives to lead. This is of no interest to them. It seems to me this might be aimed at them who don't have a sense of history and didn't know this stuff, and saying to them, hey, this is what happened here. You better get on board with us or this might happen again. Is that, do you think, the approach?
You think he might turn around and say, listen, if you endorse the idea of a Quebec nation, you're going to have a job. If you in a Quebec nation, you'll be able to afford a house. The idea that what he dredged up today, Aaron, I hate to say it, you and I have been listening to this list of grievances from Quebec politicians and so-called poets and artistes and chansonnières for the past 50 years. Everyone is against us. They're trying to erase us, as he said Sunday at the PQ meeting. But the problem is, in 2024, the way things are instantly taken up and repeated ad nauseum, it's dangerous. What he's saying is downright dangerous. And I expected more from the person who I perceive Paul St. Pierre Plamondon to be. Clearly, I was wrong about that. But quite frankly, unless he stands down, he has done more harm, I think, in the past 48 hours to whatever it was that he tried to build up in terms of the PQ. And even if there's an echo of that support in the poll, which will be landing, I guess, from one day to the next, you will see this. You will see these words have an effect on the next survey. I absolutely guarantee it. And I think there's something, it's been a long time since I heard something this unabashedly shocking said by a Quebec politician.
All right, we will leave it at that. I will mention, by the way, he has agreed to come on tomorrow just after 3 o'clock, so maybe we'll get some explanation then. I guess so. All right, let me move on from that and talk about the federal budget. I like your headline, which says it sure sounds like a pre-election budget. Again, details still a little scant right now, but we're finding out the deficit's going to be about $39.8 billion. There's a focus on housing in the budget, and of course, yes, there will be a wealth tax. Why do you figure this is a pre-election budget?
Because frankly, they're throwing down on everything. They're trying to, put out the economic fires in Canada with a deluge of money. And honestly, I don't see how you can go from this budget to another budget with the same kind of blind spending unless he's rolling the dice. He's turning around. He's saying, this is going to be my last best chance. He's going to stand on this. He's going to turn around and see if people do not, chase after him with pitchforks and torches in the wake of this budget. I think this is the best he's going to do. I don't think he can afford to wait till 25 if he indeed wants to lead the Liberals into the next election. I think that, and I'm the one who was saying, the election is not going to happen tomorrow. I have a sneaking suspicion that it's the absolute theme of utter mindless desperation that has been a hallmark of this government, certainly in the past 12 months, would seem to point towards an early election, one that is based on the assumption that, look, I'm giving you all this money. You should love me and my party. Come out and vote for us.
Well, we shall see. We're going to have details on this as they become available, including I'm trying to understand. I'm just reading quick notes here, Jim, that wealth tax that I mentioned. So it's an increase on taxes on capital gains for Canada's highest earners, and they say that'll represent 0.13 of Canadians, I guess. And they're taking this rate up. They say this will bring in, listen to this increase on taxes and capital gains will bring in $19.3 billion over the next 5 years. So we'll get details on that.
Well, that just covers last week's announcement.
Well, there you go. At least a couple of them anyway.
There you go.
All right. Jim, thank you. Appreciate it.
Demain.